Welcome to the STARS program, seniors taking active roles in society. And now, here's your host, ANITA FINLEY.
Very happy to have such a nice guy as our next interview. He's an attorney, and he's an author. How much better does it get, right? So welcome, and it's Brian MANGINES. And Brian, you are I guess you made yourself a success as an attorney, and you deal in probate, and of course we know that. I mean, you have probate, estate planning, and probate attorney, but it takes a lot to become an author too. You know that. And when I first interviewed you a month ago, you said it took you 10 years, right? You were thinking about it.
I still haven't come up with the exact time frame. Something less than 10, but more than 5.
Right. But it's because, you're a very busy person. When you're a lawyer, this isn't casual. I know my son is he's an immigration lawyer, but I know that it's not just 9 to 5. You have to think about things, and you come up with ideas, and then you have clients that can't meet during the day, and you have to meet them at night. I see you there late at our office. So, and I'm going to ask you a tricky question. Are you more excited about being an author or an attorney? Be careful what you say, right?
What came first, the chicken or the egg?
Yeah, right. Well, we know what came first.
Well, I've practiced over the years a lot of areas of law. I've been a lawyer since 1990, and I've been in litigation, I've been in employment discrimination, I've handled some bankruptcy. So I have helped people through some of their darkest moments. And I think it was part of those cumulative experiences of being a lawyer, eventually evolving to estate planning and probate. I went back, got my LL.M degree in estate planning, which is a Master's of Law degree at the University of Miami. So I really love the area of law that I'm in, and so much of that is because of the people I get to connect with and interact with, which for me is what is the real juice of my practice. And I think part of all those experiences and having, frankly, spent some real quality time, intimate conversations with a lot of clients from all walks of life, really has helped me craft a lot of what went into my book as a result of those experiences as an attorney. So I'm going to dodge the question as a good lawyer would and say I love them both equally.
No, it's okay. And why don't you put your book up there so everybody
Sure.
could see the book? That's good, right? Faith with focus. And it's not a casual book. It's not about religion. It's about how you can take what you have and make it really the best. But people need help. There are people that help you with straightening out your closets or with filing, all sorts of things. But this was important because a lot of people are really having a hard time, especially today in this world, isn't it? So how would you, if you were to tell people what your book is about, what would you say?
Well, I think most of the book can be summed up in the title, which pillar number 1 would be faith. And as you said, this is not a religious book, although I think some people could find religion in it. I think most people would find some sort of spirituality, however they would define that. But it's also about inner faith and having faith in not just yourself, but in a cause and perhaps a force greater than yourselves that all can team up together to kind of get to where your innate abilities are so that you can find a purposeful and meaningful life. So I believe you have to have the faith. That's the bedrock. I believe, though, being smart about how you go about exercising your faith or carrying out your faith and your goals, which is the focus part. And there's a lot of chapters dedicated to how to take the faith that you have, the raw faith, and kind of focus it to kind of achieve the results that you want in your life. And that incorporates having passion, but also ruling that passion with some reason.
And I told Brian before that I love the places where you can actually write down your goals, first year, second year, and you write them down, and then you can go back again and look at them because they may change after you read the book.
Absolutely. I think, there's an old adage that says it's not a goal unless it's written down, and I really advocate for having those goals written down and in front of you several times a day, at least at a minimum when you wake up in the morning and before you go to bed at night, and let them creep into your subconscious. But I also spent some time in the book that says, just because you have a goal doesn't mean you have to achieve a goal just for the sake of achieving the goal, because life circumstances change and your goals may change. So I don't think anyone should be a slave to their goals per se, but I do believe that whatever goal you're going for should be pursued with passion, and you should be smart about how you go about exercising the ability to hit goals.
And that's very, very true, but the exercises that you have,
Yes.
It's not exercise your body, it's exercise your mind, right?
That is absolutely correct. They say that one of the hardest things is for a man to control his mind, and the exercises in my book are all really aimed at not so much having to spend tons of time, because I've written lots of books that have exercises, but it's just not practical that they'll ever get done. So what I wanted to put in my book were exercises that can be done maybe while you're standing in the line of Publix, maybe while you're just sitting down and taking a walk, or whatever the course of your day. But hopefully people can take some time in quiet contemplation and really think about these exercises. And there's some exercises about how we treat others, to try and be kind to others, be nice to others, because if you're having a bad day, I think the best way to lift up your own self and your own day is do something nice for somebody else. Even if it's just as simple as a smile, that can really create a big shift in a person, because we never know what's going on in somebody's mind.
I'm glad you said that, because there are people who maybe they have other things in their mind, and you go up to them or something, and they're not that they're nasty, they're just nothing. They act like you're not there, or they do what they have to do. And unless you're really a very confident person, it can really make you feel upset.
It can.
They don't realize the influence that they have on someone.
I totally agree with that, and I would say that, not that I'm perfect, but when I encounter somebody like that, I kind of try and figure out, what's going on inside them, because we don't know what's happening in their own life journey. That maybe they're just having a bad day, maybe they're in a rush. So I try not to take things personally, and if anything, try and turn it around and create some kind of shift to let them know that, it's okay, and hopefully that they'll be feeling a little bit better about themselves.
Right. Something you also said, Brian, it was, you start the day, write down some things. Write down some goals for the day. I have a problem that I write too many things, and I can't possibly do them all. And I think that you want just a few things. Just get them done, because once you cross them off, you feel so good, don't you?
Absolutely, absolutely. And you got to focus on just a few things that you can accomplish. And there's a lot of time spent in the book about how to go about doing that. Sometimes you need to start with just something easy, very easy, just to get some momentum. But write down, maybe it's just one thing, that's all you're going to do. Maybe it's, of the 20 things, you can't do that, so you have to prioritize. There's a quote in there from Stephen Covey that says, the key is to schedule your priorities, and that's really the key.
And your quotes were great. I told you that when I loved your quotes. They're so appropriate, and they were in so many of the pages. So let's just talk about how someone's going to be able to get your book. Of course, you're going to be at the Boomer Expo, and we will be featuring the books for the past 6 months, and you'll be able to see it there. But how could someone, where should they write to be able to get that book or call?
Well, it is available on Amazon and Kindle. They could call my office, 561-245-4709, and order it that way.
But I think going to Amazon, everybody
Amazon
likes to
and
do
Kindle,
that too. Why don't you do that?
It seems to be the modern way.
Yeah, that is
with
the modern.
focus.
And for someone that got the April issue, you'll see he was our book of the month in April. And but you can go to Amazon.com, and that's the good way. So now that we've kind of covered that, I want to get into your practice of law. What do you like about it?
Well, I'm the youngest of 8 children, and
Hard to believe. 8 children.
yeah, 8 strong personalities. But I've seen a lot in my life. So I've 2 of my brothers have passed away. Of course, my parents have passed away. I've seen divorces in my family. I've seen business failure in my family. I've seen brothers and sisters fight only to mend and get back together. So I've seen a lot of things in my family and through my own other experiences. So I really believe that I take that part of who I am and what my upbringing was to my practice of law. And like as I said before, I went and got my LL.M. I have the degrees, I have the credentials, I have the networks to make sure we have the best documents. But I spend a lot of time with my clients really finding out about them, what makes them tick. I talk about in my book, what's your legacy, because I think that's really important.
Oh,
really
yes, your legacy was a great thing.
Think about what your legacy is and really understand that family dynamic. You know, one of the questions I always ask people is, you know, so tell me about the son-in-law or tell me about the daughter-in-law. It's half a joke, but it's also very serious, because until I can understand that family dynamic, it's hard for me to properly advise clients, because after all, it's about protecting. My slogan is protecting what matters, and it's not just finances, but it's about protecting your legacy and protecting the family. Because I tell my clients, who many of them have done sacrificed so much to raise their children all those years, and the legacy they don't want to leave behind is those kids fighting after mom and dad pass away over a piece of artwork or a bank account. And I also often tell the beneficiaries that, you know, your parents didn't work all those years for them to have this legacy of you guys not talking. So you gotta, you know, unite. And I know it's hard. You know, I can.
Good for you.
Personally,
it's really very important that you do that, because it is funny how money really turns people. You know, here someone should be so happy, you know, and then they fight with one another, and it is a terrible thing. People wouldn't die and leave money if they thought that was going to happen to their kids.
It's true. I mean, people want to leave something. You know, we'd like to leave things on to our children, but we want to do it in a way that's going to kind of hopefully ensure that they're not going to be able to argue over it. And that's part of the role of the lawyer, to make sure that that happens. So I take that very seriously in my practice, and discuss lots of different ways where we can kind of separate some of that emotion from what needs to be carried out in the documents.
Do you give everybody a copy of your book, all your clients?
I don't, but I guess I should.
Yeah, I think
but
you
I have.
should.
I have.
You should just give them a nice little write-up and do it.
Yeah, depending on the conversation.
Yeah,
I have.
right.
I mean, I've had to talk to people, and sometimes, like I said, I'm very blessed that I really get to know some families and some people on very intimate levels that even their, you know, best friends and other family members will never know. So, as a lawyer, we have an attorney-client privilege, and I always tell people I'm going to take a lot of secrets to my grave.
Right.
But it's a blessing to be able to really get to know people and connect with them, and then try and help them.
How long have you been practicing law?
Since 1990. So I'm a member of the Connecticut bar and the Florida bar, and I've been a member of Florida since 1997 when I moved down
Okay,
there.
so this was something you really decided to. And you said that, of course, you had a lot of brothers and sisters, but is anybody else a lawyer in the family?
Well, my wife's a lawyer. My father was a lawyer.
Oh,
my sister-in-law's a lawyer.
Oh, okay. So then, that's great. So now they
I don't win that many arguments.
Okay, but that's important. So, but are they practicing the same kind of law that you're practicing, or they're general lawyers?
Actually, my wife, Mimi, is a realtor here in Boca Raton with Boca Expert Realty. She's a great realtor. And my sister-in-law does some practice law, but she's also a realtor here in Boca. And my father's passed on, but I did get to practice law with him up in Connecticut for 5 years.
And so he was
wonderful.
So he did estate planning also.
At the time, we were doing employment discrimination cases. Employment
No
law.
kidding.
Yes,
Employment. That must have been tricky.
A lot of hardcore jury trials and
Wow.
a lot of heavy federal litigation. But it was a wonderful time. And
I would say that. So you were with your dad. That is a
wonderful.
lovely thing. Yeah,
It
that's
really
great.
was.
Okay, so now talking about being a lawyer, is it something that you would? I don't know if you have children. Do you have children?
I have 3 children.
Okay, so would you want any of them to be lawyers?
My official stance is I've never tried to encourage or discourage any of my kids from being a lawyer. I have my daughter Lindsay just graduated from the University of Pennsylvania on Sunday, as a matter of fact.
Oh,
So
congratulations!
very proud of her.
Of course.
And she's going to work maybe for a year or two. She's
With you?
No, she's got a great job up in Hoboken, New Jersey.
Okay.
But she's maybe thinking about law school. She did a internship last summer at a major law firm in D.C. They invited her back. They wanted to hire her as a paralegal.
Oh, well,
job,
that says that she's got some good stuff going on.
But she's got to, if she wants it. And then, I don't know about my daughter Megan. She graduated high school over the weekend.
Wow, you had a lot of graduations
here.
Yes,
a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if she ended up in law school. But again, I don't encourage or discourage my kids. They got to really want it. Again, in the title of my book is, live with passion, and you have to be passionate about the law if you're going to be a lawyer.
Now, I know that you're not practicing a lot of the other kinds of law because, you have to focus in. There's some general practitioners.
When you become like a estate planning and probate attorney, you sort of become a family attorney as well in many regards, because people kind of look to you as a confidant. And I know many attorneys throughout the community being down here, many attorneys. So if I can't handle things myself, I have a very good referral network. But general business, corporate matters I get involved in, I handle. Of course, I mentioned probate. We do a lot of probate in my office. Try and keep our clients out of probate when they come to us for estate planning.
Right.
But when probate becomes necessary, we handle that. Like I said, a lot of general corporate type transactional stuff.
I want everyone to know that you're listening to my guest is Brian MANGINES, and he is located in Boca Raton, and you can reach him. Let's see, we're going to have people reach you by going to your. I don't have it here. I only have your cell number. I don't want to do it. Well, it's 86. Is it 864-110? No.
561. Yeah. 245-4709.
I'm going to do that right now. So it's 561.
245. 4709.
Perfect. I'll repeat that later. So if you want him, you want a good lawyer that's going to help you. If you haven't gone to a lawyer yet for your for your probate, or don't wait for something to happen. It's estate planning and probate. I mean, I know someone in New York, and New York's a tough place, that I guess they didn't want to die. And so because they didn't want to die, they didn't want to deal with this. And now their poor estate is suffering from this. It's a terrible thing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we talked about leaving a legacy, and that's not the legacy you want to leave to children, to try and clean up an estate through a probate. In most cases, there are a few times where probate actually is a better course of action, but by and large, you want to have all your affairs straightened out, everything in a revocable living trust,
right? So
that whoever takes over for you, the administration can just kind of run very smoothly. And it applies during life, unlike just a will, which is a death instrument, which has to go to probate. The revocable living trust is definitely, in most cases, the better instrument to go with.
Right, and I had a situation with my mother where I had a problem with a brother, and so the attorney did an irrevocable trust because we didn't want him to be able to get into anything anymore.
Now,
so there are a lot of things, right?
Yeah, so a revocable living trust applies to the person who sets up the trust, we call the grantor. That's during life. They can change and amend it. They don't lose any control over their assets. It's revocable. But oftentimes, when that person passes away, we will create an irrevocable trust for the beneficiaries. So, for example, if you have a son or daughter and you think that there's a divorce on the rise, you may not want the money to go to the divorcing son-in-law or daughter-in-law, so you may want to keep that money in a trust with what we call a spendthrift provision that would keep that money away, because it's still your money going into an irrevocable trust. You get to control how it gets to be spent, and you get to tell your trustee, I don't want any of that money going to the ex-son-in-law or daughter-in-law or any of my son's creditors or daughter's creditors.
I'm sure that's more common than not, isn't it?
Yes, it's what we call protecting bloodlines. So a lot of people want to keep the money down through the generations, so it goes to the child, to the grandkids, the great-grandkids, God willing, but not out to creditors or divorcing spouses.
Well, the one thing that now, maybe because we are seeing the older adults remarrying.
Yes.
And the kids are very worried about that. So what can they do to protect the children and also have a good life with their new spouse?
Yes, so we have trust for those too, and so a lot of times you create a trust for the second, let's just call it the second spouse, that will provide income for life, will give the trustee opportunity to maintain the health, education, maintenance, or support of that spouse.
In the home, and the home doesn't.
Yes,
right.
yes, and then upon death, it will go into the kid's family trust, and then the kids would get it. So, these are very case by case, very complicated, specific fact scenarios, but generally, and I've seen it come into my office, and I've been involved in litigation where if you try and put one pot of money and expect for the stepkids to get along with the stepmom, who's the trustee of that money, who gets a new spouse, for example, you're asking for troubles. So I like to make sure that that's all separated, so that everyone knows whose pot of money is who. If I think there's going to be issues in the family, I'm a strong advocate for having the person, my client, sit down with the kids, sit down with the spouse, say this is how it's going to be, because I see many instances where, say, a son is appointed the trustee, or perhaps it's the second wife or husband who's is the trustee, and they're the ones who announce, here's how the money is, and by the way, I'm the one who's controlling the purse strings. They're shooting the messenger. That's not usually going to work. But if I were to have to sit down with my kids and say, this is the way it's going to be, and here's why, then if I had my son Austin, for example, be my trustee, then at least my two daughters aren't yelling at Austin because they're not shooting the messenger. They at least know from Dad. So not an easy conversation all the time, but I really think that goes a long way to preserving that family legacy.
You're so right, and I've had friends who have had terrible things happen where when we knew that the husband of the new wife wanted her to have everything, and yet out of the Wild West come kids who he didn't even like anymore, and just and they got there some lawyers, and it held up for a year, and it was terrible stuff.
We have
tons
of stories in our office, and we also have a saying. I say, everyone's hugging at the funeral, and then they're suing each other a month later in court, and we want to avoid that. But we just had a situation where the gentleman died, has two sisters and a brother. We found out that there's apparently he had a daughter that he hasn't talked to in 45 years. But if there's no will, that money by law will go to the daughter that he's estranged from. So, and he died unexpectedly, and he died young. So and this happens more often than I can tell you. So it's really important to have your affairs in order, so that you get to control the assets that you work. That represents, whether it's $1 or $1 million, that represents your life earnings, your life work, and you ought to be able to direct how you want that distributed.
It sounds so smart, and that's why you have to not only go to a lawyer, but go to a smart lawyer, and Brian really is that, and Brian is, you can see he actually was a litigator when you were with your father, which is important, so you understand the mentality of that, even though now you really are, of course, besides being an author, you're estate planning and probate an attorney. You're in Boca Raton. Now let me give you the phone number. Everybody, remember this is Pencil Talk Radio. It's 561-245-4709. 245-4709. And you can actually go on the website. Let's see, you have a website, I know. And it's, for the book, it's Amazon.com. And then if you want people, should they go to your...
MANGINES Law.
I'm going to spell that. Okay, so it's MANGINES. MANGINES. MANGINES.
That's correct.
Right.
Law. LAW.
Law.com. Right. Yeah, you want to do that. And I have to say that people listening to you, I think they'll get it. I think they get your being so genuine and being smart. It's very important. People don't know where to go, and as you said, when they go to a lawyer, they need to know that lawyer is smart but sensitive, which you obviously are. And there are very few, I think, lawyers have written books anyway. And so if you, The Faith with Focus is a wonderful book, and I can attest to that. I really had. I usually run through books pretty fast, but I had a hard time putting this down, and I have to keep going back because you have lots of steps for people to take, and when you're in different periods of your life. all of a sudden this chapter is more important than that chapter was, right?
That's absolutely correct.
But the legacy was a great chapter, and I think that you will be very happy that you took the years to write this. It takes time, but I know your kids probably are so proud of you.
You know, they really are. That was, that was really one of the most satisfying and gratifying things, is to see how
Of course.
proud my kids were
Of
and
course.
impressed that I did that. And like I said, it was a labor of love. It took a long time.
Because, you know, as a lawyer, they're not sitting in the office with you. They know what you do, but it's not the same. But here,
That's right.
this is the proof of the pudding, right?
That's
here
right.
in this book, right?
They've probably heard a lot of it over the years growing up.
No,
from me,
but have it there for you. That was really very okay.